My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 36, and I used to believe that loyalty was the foundation of love. I was wrong. For most of my adult life, I built my world around my wife, Jessica. We met in college, fell in love fast, married young, and for 12 years, I thought we were unbreakable. We had a beautiful home in Denver, Colorado, and to everyone who saw us from the outside, we were the picture of stability, a couple that had it all figured out. But that illusion came crashing down one Thursday afternoon, on the day I came home early from work. That morning had started like any other. I woke up before sunrise, kissed Jessica goodbye while she was still asleep, and drove to my job at a local construction firm. We had a big contract going on, but around noon, the client called to postpone the meeting until the next week. It meant I could leave early, for once, something I hadn't done in months. I remember feeling happy on the drive home. It was rare to get an afternoon off, and I wanted to surprise Jessica. I stopped by our favorite bakery, picked up a box of cupcakes, and even grabbed a bottle of wine. I thought maybe we'd have lunch together. Maybe talk about taking that trip to Oregon we'd been putting off. It was one of those bright spring days. Clear skies, warm wind, everything calm. I pulled into the driveway around 2:15 p.m. Jessica's car was already there. I smiled, thinking, perfect. She's home. I didn't knock. I never had to. It was my home. But the second I opened the door, I felt something was wrong. At first, it was the silence. Our house was never this quiet in the afternoon. Usually, I'd hear music playing or the TV in the background. But that day, nothing. Just the faint hum of the air conditioning. Then I noticed something else. The faint smell of sweat and perfume. Not Jessica's usual floral perfume, but something heavier, muskier. I called out, "Jess?" No answer. Her car was outside. Her purse was on the counter. I took a few steps toward the hallway, and that's when I heard it. A sound that froze me in place. A muffled moan, then another, then a man's voice. At first I thought, no, that can't be. But as I walked closer to her bedroom, the sounds grew clearer, unmistakable. My heart started racing, so hard I could feel it pounding in my throat. My hands shook as I reached for the doorknob. For a second, I hesitated. A part of me wanted to turn around, to leave, to not see what I already knew was happening. But another part of me, angrier, colder, needed to know. I pushed the door open, and there it was. Jessica, my wife of 12 years, was on top of another man. In our bed. The same bed where we had laughed, dreamed, and shared our lives. They both froze when they saw me. The man jumped off the bed, scrambling to grab his clothes, while Jessica gasped, pulling the sheets up to her chest, her face pale. "Daniel!" she screamed, as if I had done something wrong. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. My body felt detached from my mind. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, could feel the taste of metal in my mouth. The man stammered, "I'm sorry, man," and tried to rush past me. I blocked the door. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. He didn't answer, just looked terrified. Then Jessica screamed again, "Daniel, please, let him go!" And that's when it hit me. She was protecting him, not me. Him. I stepped aside. "Get the hell out of my house," I said through gritted teeth. He didn't need to be told twice. He ran half-dressed down the hallway, tripping over his shoes, fumbling with his car keys. As soon as the front door slammed, The house fell silent again. Jessica started crying. "Daniel, please, I can explain." Explain? What exactly are you going to explain, Jess? That I just caught you cheating on me in our own damn bed? She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me." Tears streamed down her face. "It's not what you think. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to—" "Don't you dare say it just happened," I snapped. "That's not how this works. You made a choice. You had to call him, invite him, undress, and—" I stopped. The words burned too much to finish. She sobbed harder. "Please, Daniel, I made a mistake." "No," I said coldly. "You made many mistakes. Today was just the one where you got caught. I couldn't stand being in that room another second. The smell of betrayal lingered like poison in the air. I walked out, grabbed my car keys, and left. I drove aimlessly for hours. I didn't even know where I was going, just needed to get away. My mind was spinning. Images of them together replayed in my head over and over. My wife's face, the sheets, the sound of her voice saying his name. By the time I stopped, it was dark. I found myself parked outside a gas station, miles from home. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. There were 20 missed calls from Jessica. I didn't answer a single one. That night, I checked into a cheap motel. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt numb. The next morning, I went back to the house while she was at work, packed a few essentials, my clothes, and left again. I couldn't bear the idea of staying under the same roof with her. Days turned into weeks. She kept trying to contact me. Calls, texts, emails. Every message sounded desperate. "Please, Daniel, talk to me. It was a mistake. I swear I love you. We can fix this." But how do you fix that? I ignored her, focusing instead on work. My boss noticed something was off, but I couldn't talk about it. Every time someone said Jessica's name, it felt like a knife twisting deeper. Then one day I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, I'm sorry for what happened between us. I didn't know she was married." It was him, the guy from my house. His name was Ethan, apparently. He claimed Jessica told him she was separated, that I had emotionally abandoned her. That message flipped a switch in me. She hadn't just cheated, she had lied to him too, spinning some story to justify her betrayal. I called her that night. It was the first time we'd spoken since that day. She picked up immediately, voice trembling. "Daniel?" "I talked to Ethan," I said flatly. Her silence was enough of an answer. "You told him we were separated?" Daniel, I didn't want him to know." "What didn't he know?" "That you were sleeping with your husband's money, in your husband's house, on your husband's bed." She started crying again. I felt nothing. "I'm done, Jessica," I said quietly. "We're over. You can stay in the house until I figure out the papers, but I want you out by the end of the month." "Daniel, please!" "Goodbye." I hung up and blocked her number. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to let her betrayal destroy me. I was going to rebuild from the ashes, and I was going to make her regret ever thinking I was the fool in this story. A week later, I met with a lawyer. She was sharp, focused, and had seen cases like mine before. If you have proof of infidelity, you can file for fault-based divorce. It'll work in your favor financially. Proof? I had all the proof I needed burned into my memory. But I also had something better. Security cameras. A few months before, after a break-in scare, I'd installed cameras in the living room and hallway. I hadn't even remembered them until that moment. When I checked the footage from that day, there it was, Jessica walking in with Ethan, holding hands, kissing in the hallway, heading straight to our bedroom. I handed the footage to my lawyer. Use this. From that point, everything moved fast. Papers were filed, assets frozen, accounts separated. I made sure she couldn't drain a single cent. When the divorce hearing came, she looked at me like a stranger. Maybe that's what we were now. Strangers who used to share a bed. The judge ruled in my favor. I kept the house, the car, and full control of our joint savings. Jessica got nothing but her clothes and her guilt. But even after the legal dust settled, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed more than just closure. I needed understanding. How had I missed it? The late nights, the sudden girls' trips, the new lingerie she said she bought for me. I'd ignored it all because I trusted her. I spent months trying to understand, but eventually I realized something simple. There's no logic in betrayal. You can't make sense of it because it was never about you. It was about the void inside them, the kind that no love can fill. And yet, even after everything, she still tried to come back. One night, months later, she showed up at my door. "Please, Daniel," she said, standing there in the rain. "I have nowhere else to go." I looked at her, soaked, trembling, broken, and for a brief second I saw the woman I once loved. Then I remembered the man in my bed. "You made your bed," I said quietly. "Now lie in it." I closed the door, and for the first time since that terrible day, I finally felt free. When I opened my eyes the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the curtains, cutting sharp lines across the floor. For a second, I forgot everything. For a second, I thought it was just another normal morning. Then I turned my head and saw the empty space beside me, the space that used to be filled by the woman who betrayed me, and everything crashed back like a wave breaking over my chest. The memories hit hard. The moans, the smell, the look of guilt and arrogance in her eyes, the other man scrambling to pull on his pants while my entire life disintegrated before me. I sat up, heart pounding, the same mixture of anger and disbelief coursing through me like poison. I knew I couldn't just move on. Not yet. That morning, I did something most people would call cruel, but to me, it felt like justice, or maybe survival. I opened my laptop, logged into the smart security app connected to our home's camera system, and began replaying the footage from the night before. Every camera, every angle. The front door, the living room, the hallway that led to our bedroom. I watched her let him in. I watched her kiss him. I watched her guide him upstairs like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I saved every clip. I transferred the videos to a private drive, one only I could access. Then I made a few more copies and hid them in places no one would think to look. I didn't know exactly how I would use them yet, but I knew they were my insurance policy. It wasn't about humiliation or revenge porn. It was about proof. Undeniable evidence of what she did in case she ever tried to twist the story. Later that day, I called my lawyer. "Ethan," I said, my voice low and trembling, "I caught my wife cheating. In my house. I have footage. What do I do?" There was silence on the other end, then a heavy sigh. "Mark, first of all, I'm sorry. Second, don't confront her again. Don't delete anything. Don't tell her what you have. Let me handle the legal side." We set up a meeting for the next morning. But I wasn't done yet. That evening, I went through her phone records. I knew her passwords, we shared everything, or at least I thought we did. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Messages, dozens of them. Flirty texts, explicit photos, voice notes. It turned out they'd been seeing each other for months. During weekends when she claimed to be visiting her sister or staying late at work, I felt like my entire reality had been rewritten behind my back. Each message was a dagger. "You make me feel alive again. He never touches me the way you do. Sometimes I wish he'd just catch us so I'd have a reason to leave." That last one hit me the hardest. She wanted to get caught. By the time I closed the laptop, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. But under the heartbreak, something else began to take shape. Something darker, sharper, and far more focused. I wasn't going to just be the man who got cheated on. I was going to be the man who ended it on his own terms. The next day at the lawyer's office, Ethan laid it all out for me. You've got solid evidence. The footage, the messages, it's airtight. You can file for divorce with cause, and it'll weigh heavily in your favor. She might lose her share of the house, maybe even alimony rights, depending on how the court views the betrayal. I nodded, still quiet, still simmering. Then Ethan leaned forward. But Mark, if you want to make sure she feels what she did emotionally, that's something the law can't do. That's up to you. And that's when my plan started forming. Not a violent plan, not anything illegal, but something that would make her face her own reflection and realize what she destroyed. That evening, I went home early again, but not to surprise her. This time, I was calm, composed. I acted as if nothing had happened. When she came in around 6 p.m., her eyes widened slightly when she saw me sitting at the kitchen counter. "Hey," she said softly, almost cautiously, "you're home early again." "Yeah," I replied. "Wanted to have dinner with my wife." She smiled, that same fake smile she had been using to cover up months of deceit, and went to the fridge. I watched her move, the way she pretended nothing was wrong. I saw the guilt hiding behind every gesture. As we ate, she started talking about her day, pretending to be normal, pretending to love me. And I listened, for the last time. When we finished, I stood up and said, "I'm glad we did this." She smiled. "Me too." Then I added quietly, "Because it's the last dinner we'll ever have together." Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. What do you mean?" I pulled out a small USB drive and set it on the table. "Everything's on there," I said. "The camera footage, the texts, the calls. You know exactly what it is." Her face drained of color. "Mark, please." "No," I cut her off. "Don't insult me with excuses. You did it in our house, the one I built, the one I paid for. You made it your playground, and now you'll face what that costs." She started crying, reaching for my arm, but I stepped back. "I already spoke to my lawyer. You'll get papers in a few days. I suggest you read them carefully before signing." Then I walked away, past her tears, past her pleading, past the wreckage of the life I thought we had. For the next few weeks, I stayed somewhere else, a friend's place. She called me every day at first, then every few days, then not at all. Her lover, I learned, ghosted her almost immediately after the confrontation. Apparently, he didn't want to be involved in a domestic scandal. Poetic justice, I thought. The divorce moved fast. The evidence made it clean and undeniable. The house became mine. Her share was reduced. She walked away with almost nothing. But I wasn't celebrating. I was surviving. It took months before I stopped checking the cameras every night. Months before I stopped seeing her face every time I closed my eyes. Cheating doesn't just break your heart, it rewires your brain. It makes you question every smile, every memory, every piece of trust you ever gave. But I kept going. Slowly, painfully, but forward. I started therapy. I started running again. I started taking small steps toward the man I used to be, before betrayal turned me into a ghost. And then one night, I ran into someone. Her name was Claire. She was at a bookstore, sitting alone in the quiet corner, reading the same novel I had in my hands. We talked for hours about books, life, disappointment, healing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that wasn't anger or pain. I didn't rush it. I didn't expect anything. But over time, she reminded me that love isn't supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. It's supposed to feel like peace. A year later, I stood outside the same house where everything fell apart, but this time, I was there to sell it. A young couple came to see it. They walked through the rooms, laughing, planning their future. Watching them, I realized something I hadn't before. The house wasn't cursed. It wasn't haunted. It was just a place. The real scars were inside me, and they were finally healing. As I closed the door for the last time, I whispered to myself, "Goodbye to the ghosts. Hello to the man who survived them." And I walked away.